Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. We have today another special guest. I know I say they're all special, but well, they are. Today I have Lloyd Adams. We'll have a conversation. He is the new president of North America for SAP, which you know is one of my favorite companies. And he came into the role in September and has plans to reinvent this market for the cloud computing era. So super excited to hear about how he plans to do that. Let me just bring him forward and we'll have our conversation. Terrific. Maybe even better. Great. There we are.
Yeah.
Hi, Lloyd. Thanks for making time for us today.
Hi, Karen. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate the offer.
Terrific. So, congrats on your new role. I want to talk more about your history at SAP in a bit, but maybe we could start with what's your vision for SAP North America now that anyway, why did you take this role? What was your vision?
No, I appreciate the question. And to your earlier point, it is officially day 90. Started this position on September 1st. And here we are almost a full 3 months later.
Wow.
And really, really enjoying it. Very excited. It's a big honor it's a company obviously that I've been a part of for a long time. But when I think about, some of the challenges and the teams I was able to be a part of in the past, and now to take this on to the next level, that, really quite honored, right? To your point, SAP is a big global company, but North America is my humble opinion, the battleground really for our market. And, when I think about, we serve 163,000 companies here, customers here just in North America alone, just over 27,000.
I just want to stop. That's an incredible number.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I
right?
mean, you are a giant company, but 163,000 in North America alone.
No, it's look, we're never bored, Karen. Put it that way. And we've got just over 27,000 employees here, across all of our different, functional and board areas. Over 5,000 developers here in North America alone, and it's a really vibrant business, right? We're fortunate in that we get to service just about every industry, companies of all sizes, and and as right, just how you cover the market, it's obviously a very competitive marketplace. And so we never take for granted, the position that we have, but we are very, honored and humbled by the customer base and the partner ecosystem that we have. And, in terms of, why this job, really for a long time, just have always put this position and the ability to kind of run with this team in this capacity, high on my priority list. And so to find myself here now, it's really literally a dream come true. And to be in a position now looking forward on where we can take things, although I've been here for 25 years, in some respects, I feel like I'm just getting started. So it's a really exciting time here.
Wonderful. Well, it's great. Your enthusiasm just comes straight through. So 90 days exactly today. That's exciting. What are the first 90 days been like? What have you learned during these 3 months?
It's been amazing, right? So I think, the volume obviously is significantly greater than what I've been used to. I had the really good fortune of managing the Northeast region for North America over the last 5 years prior to stepping into this one, which is an amazing part of our team. And, one that I am very grateful for the opportunity to have had the opportunity to run with. But at the same time, it's been really exciting to be able to get back out across, the rest of the North American region, because over the arc of my time here, I've had a number of different roles. And so to be able to reconnect with, some, longer standing customer relationships, or even just other SAP and partner, colleagues that, you obviously stay in touch with, but you lose the ability to kind of, interact with, directly, and to be able to do that a bit more frequently and more at scale. It's been really nice, right? So the last couple of months, it's been a lot of, as you can appreciate, just going on the listening tour, right? Getting out in the markets, meeting as many of our customers as I can, as I make the rounds, but just as importantly, spending time with our partners, and of course, with our employees, and really trying to get a sense for, not so much where we are, but where we need to head, and helping to shape, the strategy and the direction of where we take things. It's a really, interesting time of the year to step into this role, because, as you know us, and tends to be our busiest time from a seasonality perspective, which is exciting. And it's also the time of year, of course, where you've got all the year-end holidays. And it also happens to be, really busy through the lens of just, planning and, how are we finessing our go-to-market for next year. And so the confluence of all these things, it makes it for a really dynamic time. So truth be told, the last 90 days have been a lot, but they've also flown by, and in some respects, I can't believe that we're already here, but really, really excited thus far.
Yeah. Well, I love your choice of the word dynamic to choose what's going on.
Yeah, could have said chaotic.
Could have said chaotic,
Yes.
like the phrasing dynamic. So what did you hear during these 90 days when you went on your listening tour?
Yeah, look, I think first, most importantly, from the perspective of our customers, I think, we're really finding, irrespective of industry, the degree to which our customers are counting on us to help them with this pivot to the cloud,
Mm.
as you mentioned before, it's really higher now than we've ever seen it before, which is really exciting. And to be at this moment in time, in some respects, I don't want to say fully on the other side of the pandemic, but with, the lessons learned through the last couple of years, and what an interesting time period it's been on so many fronts. But the degree to which, so many of organizations with whom we work have, leaned into digitization, which in some respects, some might have found counterintuitive when they thought what an environment like the pandemic would look like. But as more and more, those transformations have been catalyzed and in parallel moving to the cloud as part of that, the degree to which our clients are so reliant on us to help them on that journey, not just in terms of getting there, but also, even more importantly, better adopting and consuming what it is that they're bringing into their estate. It's a really interesting time, Karen, because if you think about it, the whole way that we solution and bring our offerings to market now that we are in such a heavy cloud dynamic has really changed fundamentally from the way that we would do business, say 5-10 years ago.
Sure.
And we like to say now, so much of what we do has to start with consumption in mind, right? It's not enough just to bring the art of the possible to a client in terms of what things could look like, but actually helping them successfully deploy that. And then once on that part of things, then most optimally using the capabilities that are brought in house, that's higher, of higher criticality than ever before, because with cloud it's not enough to just create, like in the past, a bill of material that you pass off to a partner or a customer and say, hey, good luck. You really have to just be more ever present and showing more skin in the game and really helping with that successful deployment as well as adoption.
Yeah. So being a true business partner with your
Correct.
clients and customers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Even if that means, what gets brought in at a point in time might perhaps be more compact and smaller than it was in the past, but you do that and you deploy it successfully and optimally more quickly, that earns you the right to then, get invited back to the next program. And it's a virtuous cycle, right? That you just have to keep repeating and continuing to refine and get better with each one.
Yeah, terrific. Have you deployed something in the last 90 days you're particularly proud of, you'd like to share?
More on, on the internal side of things,
Okay.
right? I had the really good fortune of taking over for a dear friend and colleague and person who had been in the organization for a very long time, a gentleman by the name of DJ Paoni. And so I had the good fortune of stepping in for someone who was such an incredible leader and had, taken the business to such great heights. So it wasn't as if I was coming into a situation where things were in need of a complete turnaround or anything like that. It really afforded whoever was to come in to kind of just look at things a little bit differently. And so for me, I, especially given the fact that we're kind of coming on the other side of the pandemic here, I really tried to, make the people agenda, be at the forefront of things, right? It's a very competitive marketplace. And as, proud as I am of all the things that SAP gets to do and represents in the market, we're not the only game in town, right? And so we're trying really hard, even in these, chaotic and turbulent times, to put a premium on, employee experience, right? And not just, through the lens of sales and marketing, but really all of the different functions that we have represented here, and make them feel, part of something special, and amplify the focus that we've had on things, critical things like diversity and inclusion and return to the office and so forth. And so still very much a work in process, but I think in terms of, what we've probably been, more participatory in the last 90 days than less, that would be an area that I would highlight. I think it's critically important.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in today's macro environment, sort of paying attention to employee engagement and.
Well, exactly. And, and to the point before, not the only game in town, but at the same time, I do think as we head into some times where, things may be a bit more turbulent, it really is important to take stock of the fact that, what is it that your company stands for in terms of durability and sustainability and culture, right? And so really trying to put a heavy premium on that, even now more so than ever.
Yeah, terrific. So speaking of maybe heading into turbulent times, I mean that's definitely what I'm hearing from my consulting clients is maybe we don't know, so we're going to be a little conservative because we're not clear what's going on. What are you sensing out there in terms of what might be coming up in 2023 from a business environment standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, look, fortunately, I think there's a lot of key learnings from the last couple of years,
Hmm.
in the hybrid mode that we've been in, and lessons learned from, COVID and the pandemic. And one of the things that I think really stands out, Karen, is when you look at cross industry, the organizations that, made the decision to lean into investing in digital transformations, as
Hmm.
hard as those are, because those are never easy, many of those organizations, I think, now that leaned into that during the pandemic now find themselves even stronger because of it, and their ability to innovate and be agile is perhaps more pronounced than it is for others who
Hmm.
didn't make, such decisions. And so when I correlate that with, what those organizations are thinking about, or even those that are still a bit behind, I think despite the turbulence that we're seeing, I think there is a heightened awareness now, both in IT and the business,
Mm.
that digitization isn't something that can just be an afterthought, and it really is a mandate. And so, what are the set of, programs and transformations that get prioritized? That said, how do we best, curate the case for change so
Mm.
that, for those that might have some, predispositions, whether they're in the executive leadership team or the boards, some of whom, may have some, predispositions to things like this with
Mhm.
SAP or other, players in our market. I think that the need to be really buttoned up in terms of what that case for change is probably, even more paramount than it's been in the past. But that said, I think that there still is an awareness that we can't, let these things languish any
Mhm.
longer, even though there are some, challenging times ahead.
Yeah.
So therefore, I think, through the lens of my colleagues and I at SAP, that's what's driving us to try and keep us, as sharp as
Mhm.
possible, to recognize that while we can, paint a very compelling vision in terms of art of the possible, we need to underpin that with, very sensible, case for change.
Yeah, yeah. Which of course helps not just with the business case, but also with getting the employees on board around supporting that change as well. So
Cool.
yeah. So
And I think too, and just, to build on that too, Karen, because you're so right. And I think, also happening in conjunction with all of this is just the rise of more and more digital natives, right? Who
yes, yeah.
and that during the time of, this time of great resignation, I think companies are also coming to this reckoning that, they need to have, consumer grade, intuitive, easy to
Mm.
use systems, and from an employee experience perspective, across all functions, that is super critical, right? So I think that's also a big part of the underpinning of the cases for change that we're
Yeah,
driving.
agreed. I can't remember the exact number, but there was it's a huge number in terms of percent of employees that said, the digital tools that they have from their workplace are not up to par, right? They're held back, in fact, in being productive and getting their work done by the tools they have at the office. So
No, I mean, people are
anything we can do to, yeah,
people absolutely expect an Apple-like or an Amazon-like experience in any function, right? And
yeah,
so coupled with, of course, with, the capability and the data integrity and everything else
exactly.
that are
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah, that's great. So that's a little about the short term in terms of turbulence and what's happening. Let's go back to the big picture in your vision. I know you've said that sort of this next phase of cloud at SAP is really heavily relying on partnerships, and that you plan to sort of lean more or partner more with your partners around getting into new product areas and industries. Can you say more about that?
No, absolutely. I think, when you think about SAP's flagship offering, which we call S4, and the number of our, even just, forget about new client acquisition for a second, But just think about, our install based customers. So many of them, Karen, still need to make the move from wherever they may be now to S4. And some industry spaces have moved a little bit quicker than others, but even in the spaces where we've seen earlier and faster adoption, we still have a wealth of space to go in terms of those that haven't started to move yet. So when you think about that through the lens of what's needed, from an ecosystem to help us get there, it's pretty significant. And then if you then think about it through the lens of, okay, in the manner in which they're going to do it by virtue of doing it in the cloud and so forth, and the expectations that clients have in such a motion relative to maybe how things been done in the past, it's all about quick time to value, fit to standard, as little customization as possible and so forth. And so, I think that's a little bit of a different dynamic from the ecosystem that we have in terms of the trusted and true stalwarts that,
Right.
most know by name, but then the need for, other really agile players to help us extend down market into the mid market, into the small enterprise space and so forth. And so, our need for an ecosystem that is vibrant is higher than it's ever been, right? Due to the capacity to have just within our current install base. And then you think through the lens of, the frontier that we have from a new client acquisition perspective, it goes up in an even more pronounced. So, we of course have a pretty significant services engine within our business, but that is not, our main priority. And they're there primarily to safeguard, the programs in concert with the ecosystem versus in competition with. And so, as a result, we need an ecosystem that is incredibly vast, sustainable, vibrant, and up to speed in terms of what the new dynamic is.
Yeah.
And Karen, forgive me, I'm going to shift my computer as I plug in because I just got the battery.
Oh, yeah, please.
so
The most
sorry
important thing is to stay plugged in. So
don't want to make anybody dizzy. Sorry for that.
yeah, thanks for the warning, and all good. Just let us know when you're ready to go again. And it looks like you're back.
Can you hear me again?
Yes, absolutely. Terrific. Thanks. So I want to also talk a little bit about your multi-cloud strategy. I know you said that is a key growth catalyst.
Karen, I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Are you not hearing me, or? I have to say, I was on a board meeting yesterday, and the CFO's
Karen,
computer
I'm so sorry for that.
ran it. It's okay. It happens. It happens to all of us. I had it happen yesterday in a board meeting. So
I'm very, very sorry. I had to panic there for a second, but I'm back. So sorry for that. So I missed the last
handled.
30 seconds. I apologize.
It was a dynamic situation. It's all good.
Yes. Yes.
So I wanted just to talk a little bit about multi-cloud. I know that's another part of your vision, is helping customers look at multi-cloud as a growth catalyst.
Yes. So, I mean, look, I think SAP is in an unenviable position in that we have a multitude of manners in which clients can do business with us. Everything from one end of the spectrum, our traditional on-premise business, to the other end of the spectrum, in terms of, a true SaaS, public cloud ERP offering, which is really robust right now in certain verticals in particular, particularly services-oriented industries. And then, kind of in the middle, where certain organizations, just based on the demands of their industry and where our offerings may be, might require something that's a bit of a kind of a hybrid of the two in a private cloud scenario, right? And so, I think as a result of that, and just given the vastness of the spaces that we cover, you're always going to see, a bit of a menu in terms of, the palette that we have for our clients, so that we can, through qualification and understanding of what their unique needs might be, near term and long term, that we'll be able to service them in a way that makes sense for them, which is why, frankly, what we do, isn't necessarily, the easiest. And if you think about the expanse of our portfolio from a functional perspective, not just a, core finance or other, line of business perspective, be it HR, supply chain, et cetera, but the totality of all of that, with some added nuance from an industry dimension, I think it requires that we have, that type of versatility and range of choice for our clients.
Yeah, terrific.
But clearly from a, go forward innovation perspective, more and more R&D will continue to go the direction of public SaaS, true, cloud ERP for every industry. And that's a huge focus for us right now.
Okay. So thanks for that, talking about your vision and SAP. I'd also like to talk a little bit about you. My main focus in life is leadership and leadership strategy. So you've been at SAP since 1998. Now,
That's right.
having spent 14 years of my career at one company, I can understand that a little bit, but it's not all that common. And I'd love to hear from you sort of what drove your decision to stay at the company over all those years.
No, great question. And it is interesting because although it's my 25th year, it genuinely does not feel even half that long, which I think is a good thing. And for me personally, everybody's different and every company, fits, people differently and vice versa. But for me personally, it's really been about number one, the culture, right? Number two, the people, both inside the company as well as the customers that we serve and the partners with whom we go to market. And then I think, thirdly, the array of opportunity that, that really exists here, right? And I think it's interesting because I know so many colleagues who, have spent, even more time than I have, a number of whom have done it kind of linearly in one specific function because their expertise was such that they wanted to go really, really deep.
Right.
As well, though, I know, a lot of folks such as myself who've been more of a generalist, background and have done, stints in a variety of different capacities. And for myself, that was the path I took. And I've done a little bit of everything from, consulting with our clients and actually implementing the product way back when I first joined, to then moving into, more of our pre-sales and demo, motion. Spent a number of years in our marketing organization, some time in operational roles and so forth, into the last, 10 years or so, managing, direct sales teams. And, for me, that's what's, been, so special, right? Because there is no one way. It's really a place that affords one the opportunity to explore not only what might be above, her or him, but to the side or diagonal. And I think that's something that when I talk to, new talents, either early talents, in the beginning of their career or, experienced folks who are looking at us, after having been other places for a while, that's one of the first things that I talk about, right? It really is a place that, your career development and your journey are in your hands. But that said, it's part of the DNA here. And it's something that's really nurtured so that it's symbiotic, right? It comes from one, but then it's also really supported and reinforced by the culture and I think the management here, which is special.
It is special. And it sounds like you, having started out as a consultant, would now be the poster child for career development. What a wonderful journey you've had there.
Oh, thank you.
Terrific.
Yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah. So my final question, Lloyd, is I mentioned to you before we got on our call that my consulting business tagline is up and to the right, because that's the spot on the 2x2 matrix where we always want to be. And I wonder if there was a moment or an event in your career when you knew that you were going to be successful as a leader and that you were moving in that direction.
Wow, it's a great question. So I guess the thing that immediately springs to my mind is an opportunity that I was very fortunate to be presented about 15 years or so ago. At the time, I was in our marketing organization here in North America, but I was offered the opportunity to go over to Singapore and be one of the leaders of our regional marketing team in Asia Pacific and Japan. And at that time, and this was around end of 2007, early 2008, SAP was investing big time in that part of the world. It was starting to explode for us, and they were bringing in some folks from all of the different business disciplines to just help build it up and get it, more foundational so that it could scale. And it's a plan that really worked because the business is such a huge one for us now, under the leadership of some of the folks who are running it so beautifully now. But I think then, Karen, was a moment where I was kind of blown away by the opportunity of the offer to go do it. But then even more importantly, once I was there, and it was interesting, it was supposed to be a 2-year assignment, but within the first 6 months, we added a year because it became so apparent to me. and to all involved that it's such a huge part of the world that 2 years will go by in the blink of an eye, and it's just not nearly enough time. 3 years isn't long enough either, but I really felt fortunate. And I think, to curate an experience like that and to understand as a relatively, young person at that time, just how, big the world really is, and to get all those different perspectives. And while on paper, from like a dollars and euro perspective, maybe not as big of a business at that time, but just through the heft of the size of the geography and the different cultures and languages and the degree of difficulty of getting things done, I always joke, a number of us were sent there to kind of help make that place better, but we all left, 10 times better than when we arrived, right? And so it was really, the benefit really came more to those of us that were fortunate enough to go over there. So I guess that's the one that sticks out for me. Time and what's fun about that too, it wasn't just me, it was the whole family, to got
Sure.
a unique experience, and a part of our life that we'll never forget, both personally and professionally.
Yeah. Well, that's yet another high note and that we can end on. Thank you so much, Lloyd, for joining us today and sharing all that, both your vision and your experiences with us. I'm
Always
sure
a pleasure.
everyone has learned a lot around leadership and strategy from you. And congratulations again on the new post, and best of luck to you and your team.
No, thank you. And I promise next time I'll be plugged in from the beginning. So sorry for that. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
I'll take you up on it. Thank
All
you.
right.
Take care.
Thank you. Have a good day.